please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola from RotoWire and Masters Ball. Good to be with you on this Friday morning, Todd. I expect that maybe we'll have some breaking news to talk about live during the show, because usually with pitchers and catchers just getting ramped up, this is a time where the media is meeting with players and reporters, or players and managers rather, and we get some news. And unfortunately, we got some news yesterday with Realmuto that we'll get to in a second. But how are you doing?
Doing well. We got another storm, but I'm not gonna complain about anything in New England because we're ready for it, and at least we should be. There's some people, unfortunately, in parts of the country that aren't. You probably feel the same way. You're not going to make fun of people that are complaining about the snow when they're not usually getting snow this time of year. So we got less than we expected, which is good. But, man, I just wish it would stop already and so we can start playing some ball.
I know. It's always so weird when pitchers and catchers report and games are even getting underway and we have a ton of snow up here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'll watch the next inning after I shovel, right. But, yeah, it's fine. But we're getting there, right? You mentioned we're
very close.
I joked about I'd watch a live stream of pitchers doing calisthenics, and I had like 4 people send me like links to live streams of pitchers doing calisthenics.
I love it.
So it was a joke, but geez, now I have to watch them just to make to make sure the joke was serious.
I've been enjoying seeing pictures of players just fielding ground balls. Cabrian Hayes, there was a nice little photo showcase, and I'm just getting amped up, excited for fantasy baseball to get underway. You and I, of course, talking tomorrow again on MLB Network Radio, and just got the itch to do more drafts. I'm in one right now. Talk about a few of those picks a little later. I know everybody's itching to hear
it's all about us. All about us. Wait till the DGFBI starts, folks.
Oh,
and timelines are flooded with draft boards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know most people don't love it. I kind of do love to see what other people are doing, and but yeah, there's going to be a ton of individual draft threads. Might get a little annoying. You may want to mute it if you're not into it. But I'm looking forward to TGFBI getting underway, and let's talk about JT Realmuto though, because that was the big news. Fractured right thumb, catching a bullpen. Thumb's going to be immobilized for 2 weeks. The big question, Todd, how far does he fall? Like, if he was a third rounder before, where should Realmuto go now?
Not too far, because it doesn't sound to be terrible. And if you're drafting catchers, you're getting that edge anyway. If he was a third rounder, probably fourth. And if the breaking news before the end of the podcast is the DH is around, maybe you don't even worry about it, because maybe he's able to hit for the first couple of weeks. But that's that's a pipe dream at this. Well, not a pipe dream, but it won't be breaking during this podcast anyway. So it is tough, because we're assuming here that it's like normally when you break your thumb, this is the pathway that you go. It's not as if he's had it broken and he's already on the road to recovery. So maybe around, but if the room drops him 2 rounds, then I could see jumping on the round. In the best ball, I'm probably not moving him too much, just because he's just so darn valuable in best ball that I still want him. So it is a tough one, just because he's not on an island anymore, but he's just the top couple, Will Smith, Contreras, maybe Grandal, are just so far ahead of the pack that catching, it's just how you value them. It's so important in your draft.
Yeah, absolutely, especially those 2-catcher leagues, of course. And I think if he falls too far, this may be an opportunity, because I'm still holding out hope that we have the universal DH, and we got some interesting news on that front. Not really news, but it was Jim Bowden talking about it on the SiriusXM Labor broadcast, and I got to correct myself. I kind of misquoted him. Didn't quote him on Twitter, but I said he said that multiple NLGMs still believe they will have the DH on opening day. I went back and listened to it. What he said, it was kind of like multiple NLGMs tell him, don't write off the possibility that we could still have the NLG DH on opening day. So sorry to maybe put a few words in Jim's mouth. It was essentially the same point, but when I heard that, I had to rush to Twitter. I was so excited. I do not want to see pitchers hitting. And yeah, if Realmuto has that to pad him, and he falls as a result of this, he could be a nice little value pick. But Todd, let's talk about Taijuan Walker reaching a deal with the Mets. Good place to pitch, but are these skills mixed league worthy? 2 years, $20 million. It seems the Mets certainly think so.
Yeah, I mean, we're noticing with the market, starting pitchers are getting the money. Other positions aren't. Well, unless you're a 22-year-old shortstop with a dad that used to hit 2 home runs and the 2 grand slams in the same game. But other than that, no. Walker's interesting. The Mets is a great place to pitch. I was kind of into Joey Lucchesi, and that kind of knocks him down to the six rotation, 6-spot swingman role, and maybe even knocks David Peterson out of the rotation when Noah Syndergaard's back, or maybe the Mets go 6. I can't imagine Jacob deGrom going every 6th day or 5th day, so that's not going to happen. But they, with a couple other guys, they could scatter them a little bit. But Walker, pitched over his skis, as the expression goes, last year, but also showed some. The fact he stayed fairly healthy is good, and he's starting to. I think I'm up in it. Oh, that probably was in my ears and not yours. The old Fantrax horn just went off.
Yeah,
so I was afraid. You did?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's in my ears as opposed to. I'm not worried about picking, but it's okay. It's in a 30th round of a best ball. I'm probably going to pick
make a pick live on the show if you want.
Well, all right, well, here we go. I'm clicking over it, but no, I like Walker as a speculative pick, especially because he could be drafted. Here's me taking Jorge Alfaro as my second catcher in round 29 of a Fantrax best ball.
Exciting
Here we
stuff.
go.
Hall of Famer makes his pick live.
So if
on
I win,
show.
I have to split it with everybody listening. Yeah, I like Walker as a streamer. I like him better. And in a draft and hold, I mean, you run the chance of him getting hurt. But man, can you really draft scared? Can you draft scared with every single pick? I mean, no. if you put that clause on everybody, he could get hurt. You're not going to draft anybody. So sometimes you just have to take. All right, draft. Our friend DVR used to say, for what goes right instead of for what goes wrong. Yeah, and, exactly. Some stuff could go right with Taijuan Walker. Good offense now. So I'm definitely interested in the streaming range.
Yeah, he was out over his skis a little bit. It seems like last year. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that, but I still think it was a respectable showing, and he's battled injuries. The shine is off, but I don't hate Walker as a pick this year. I haven't ended up with him yet, but
Well, we didn't know he was going to land, right?
Yeah, well, thought it was a good chance, but you didn't know. This is a pretty sizable commitment from this team, and pretty clear they want him in the rotation. So that was kind of, would he pitch for a decent team? For sure in the rotation, he is pretty locked in.
He's only 28. Doesn't he seem older?
He does. The walks, have been up a little bit in recent years, but everything checks out okay. I know, people will look at that FIP and probably be scared off, but I don't think obviously we know not every pitcher pitches to their estimators, and I just think maybe that maybe create a little buying opportunity just because there are some just obvious things under the hood that might scare some people off. Trevor Rosenthal, Todd, I was doing this draft, and when you're doing a slow draft and you just happen to be on the clock at the right time?
Yep.
And that was me with Rosenthal, and that got some groans. But look, we've talked about it in the past. Like, this was one of the guys available on the free agent market that we knew was going to sign to close somewhere. I guess that became a little less certain in recent days with the rumors of him going to Milwaukee, perhaps. But I thought there was a really good chance, no matter where Rosenthal ended up, he was going to close, and that you shouldn't let him slip too far. And it was good timing by me, but I was happy to get it. It sounds like in subsequent drafts that started yesterday, he's going among the top 10 closers. Should Trevor Rosenthal be treated as a top 10 closer?
No, he should not be treated as a top 10 closer. He should be treated as a top 5 closer.
I love it.
I actually have number 3.
Wow,
but,
really?
I mean, it just, ranking closers. I mean, the ratios, strikeouts. I haven't 80. I have 80. To me, 85% of a team saves is kind of the max. Rare exception goes a little higher. And I know they've got some good closers because you've been on Wendelken and Jake Diekman, and they picked up Yusmeiro Petit. Well, they re-signed him and Sergio Romo. They did a good job on their bullpen the past week. But to me, Rosenthal's the guy. And I've said it a couple times. Is he injury prone, or is he now more stable because he's a couple years removed from surgery, and as a reliever, he'll be okay? So I'm going to take that route. And I was on the clock in the Fantrax draft I just referenced, and I got him really late as a closer. And I know people don't like closers in best ball, but I do. So Liam Hendricks, Josh Hader, Aroldis Chapman have probably the lockdown 3, and we can put a couple more guys in there. But to me, Rosenthal's easily top 5.
I like it. Yeah, he had that horrible stretch in 2019, but has found himself, and the velocity's still there. And this is a guy with a ton of closing experience. So I do think, 80% of the saves is a safe bet. I was not viewing the A's as a likely landing spot, and I don't think anybody really was because they've had such a history of creating their closers and turning over that spot. And
they've got the inventory to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got...
Yeah, sorry about Wendelken. R.I.P. the Wendelken shirt.
No, that's fine. What was I going to say? The A's, that you're in an auction, a league, or home league, whatever. There's that guy that just cleans up in the end game every year, just manages his money or her money so well, and you can't believe that I can't believe they got that player, had the extra dollar. That's the A's. That's the A's in the end game. They wait till everybody makes their moves, and then they clean up the rest. Mitch Moreland, we're talking pitching, but Mitch Moreland, they have I don't say huge hole, but they have with Chris Davis gone, they had a hole. And he's not going to replace Matt Olson, but there's a DH, and Moreland's shown he can DH. So, C.J. Cron went elsewhere, but he was a player. We had a hole at first base / outfield / DH for the A's. Hey, they filled it. So they just, for reasonable prices. Everybody's saying the A's aren't spending. It's like, no, they're waiting.
Yeah, I know they reallocated that money that they could have perhaps put toward re-signing Marcus Semien. They spread it around, and I mean they did pretty well for themselves. The A's are sneaky.
A's they did typical A's things for sure.
And I guess I think maybe it was Jeff Passan, but somebody noted that the relief pitching market kind of crashed in free agency, and that's why Rosenthal was seeking a multi-year deal. But when the market kind of crashed, and the A's were able to get in 1 year. Yeah, that's pretty nice. So a top 5 closer. We'll see how high he goes come March, but I could see him being drafted as such in those main events, those big money drafts. That's going to be really interesting. Speaking of closers, Todd, Jordan Hicks had apparently a nice first throwing session in camp. That, according to Zachary Silver of MLB.com. The quote from Mike Schilt, all the feedback from the pitching coaches and from Jordan was favorable. Ball was coming out really clean, had life to it. We'll see how he recovers today, but a very positive first day for Jordan Hicks, no question about it. That's good to hear, obviously, guy coming back from Tommy John. That bullpen is a mess to figure out, though. Are you interested in Hicks or really anybody there?
I don't want to pay full boat for Hicks. We would pay for the regular closer, but when I scrub my update later, I am going to up his save total because I think I probably had him for 25 or 30%. I may go as high as 50%, which sort of gives a hedge that he doesn't close opening day and or he gets hurt during the season. I think he will probably lead the club in saves at this point. So I kind of want to get him up into that range, but it's still somewhat of a crapshoot when he'll be ready. Now, I mean, he's throwing, Syndergaard's throwing, all these TJ guys are throwing. You would like to intuitively a reliever should be able to come back first, but I don't know that that's completely true. Yeah,
that's true. Just the way he's got that violent arm action, I'm worried about another injury. And I've seen Giovanni Gallegos go in this draft I'm doing, and I don't hate that pick in the middle rounds at all, but there's so many decent options. Of course, Carlos Martinez, Who knows? He may want to start still, but
he does want to start.
Yeah, he does want to start.
That's we had a note on that. Amazing how the Ryan Helsley news or the parade, the hype train,
that kind of
slowed, huh? And I don't know that it should. I mean, he's still the same guy.
He's pretty good.
He's still the same pitcher. But you're right. John Gant can fill in. Andrew Miller can get Andrew Miller's not going to close. He's just going to get that occasional situational save. Alex Reyes is still a wild card. He talking about notes. Martinez says he wants to start. Reyes says, "Just tell me what I'm going to do. I'll do anything."
Yeah.
So he's in the mix.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got to talk about Shane Bieber too, although I don't want to speculate too much on this because, we've seen a guy like Juan Soto test positive for COVID, and he was insistent that it was a false positive and came back and was amazing. Same with Freddie Freeman. He won the MVP. So, on the other hand, you guys got cases like Yon Moncada and others who slumped after coming back. Austin Meadows. Are you downgrading Bieber? Or are you leaving hands off on your projection for now? Only mild symptoms.
For now, I am leaving hands off. If anything, I'll knock him down a start or two, which could, that's going to affect him because I got him. He's one of the few players I have for close to 200 innings. I've got him for over 200 innings, so maybe I knock him down to 30 or 31 starts in the mid to high 190s, and that will put him. I got him and Darvish and Bauer kind of flip a coin, three-headed coin. That may put him in the back end of that coin, but even so, it's fine now.
You just don't know. I mean, it's hard
hard
to have take action with this news.
Yeah, it may even just be that he doesn't pitch opening day. He's the fifth starter or something like that, and it doesn't matter. But the right thing to do is probably knock him down one start, just to put him a little bit down the rankings as a kind of reminder. And the drafters are smart enough to know, well, I think he's going to be fine. I'm moving him back up. Mm-hmm. That might be the responsible thing to do. Like I'm responsible. But I'm not in a vacuum. I'm not concerned. But I think if a projection is a weighted average of plausible outcomes, it's a lot more plausible now that he misses a start or two.
Yeah, I could see that. I've seen him drafted, even ahead of Cole.
I've seen him the first pitcher off the board, and that's fine. I'm not going to do it, but I don't have a track record to make fun of it.
Well, you do. I mean, you're a Hall of Famer, but you're nice.
Not in the high stakes arena. I actually
nice
feel
guy,
I'm a high stakes player. I haven't been able to do the real high stakes for the past couple of years, and it's kind of a bummer. First of all, I love I'm getting on a huge tangent here, but that's fine. I love the fact that there's so many industry people doing high stakes now. I don't know. I'm sure you've noticed it too. And for years, it was like, why don't they put their money where their mouth is? I don't believe in that argument, but I'm just happy that people are playing it, and it just drives me nuts, and I can't. I talk about. I guess I am responsible by not playing it. Doing the RotoWire Online Championship at Beat Todd Zola League. You got a Beat Clay Link League. We'll be talking more about these when the time comes. And Jeff and Chris and James. The rankings came out, and James is ahead of us in the TGFBI. We were joking about that. We were joking about that,
Well, I knew he was up there, but I didn't know he would be too. That's impressive.
3 of us in the top 10. That's not bad.
Good showing for RotoWire. I love that. I know you were not in TGFBI the first year, so you kind of have a dummy ranking for that first year, right? Like I forget what Samata did, but
I don't know how it was done. But
yeah, but you could be higher if you'd played all 3 years, but you're top 10 regardless.
Be lower.
Yeah,
that's true. That's the way it is. Anyway, we'll find out this, right?
Yeah, I can't wait for TGFBI. I know, maybe if you're not in the industry, it's not as cool to hear about, but it's a damn good time, and I definitely enjoy it.
Excitement and the fact that good things are coming on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. It's Twitter's. Maybe you don't want to go because you don't want to see other people's teams, but for the longest time, it doesn't have to be political as well. It was just I have to look at Twitter because it's part of my job, but I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it now. It was fun to watch the FSWA awards being announced, right? It was I didn't have any skin in the I wasn't nominated, but it still was fun. So I like the it's going to be again a little inside. It's going to be fun. in around a week when we announce the Tout Wars leagues. I think people are really excited to to find out their league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are good things. We can't be around people to celebrate. This is how we need to do it.
Absolutely. I'm just happy to be a part of some of these leagues. And Jeff actually handed over the FSGA team to me, so I'll be doing that on Monday. Looking forward to that. And yeah, Labor, Tout Wars, it's awesome to be a part of, and a lot to learn from other drafters for me. Todd, Another piece of news caught my eye, definitely. Eduardo Rodriguez considered fully healthy, a full go. That's great to hear. He was a guy who struggled with COVID last year and then actually developed myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle. He couldn't really do anything for a long time. He wasn't even cleared to walk or take part in other light activities for months. The Red Sox did say that they expected a full normal-ish offseason, and it seems like he was able to have one. You love seeing a guy like Erod healthy, and I'm 4 picks away. Erod's still on the board. If he's there at 252, I'm going to probably be doing cartwheels in this little media room we have here.
That would be good. Make sure we capture that. The 252 is 16th round or so?
It's the 17th round.
17th round, yeah, because 15 times 15 is 225. I know my 15 tables. After that, I have to do some, 17th round? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's even if the news was sketchy, it's worth the roll of the dice. Now, what I'm curious about is Alex Cora gave tough love to Eduardo Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. Where other managers were babying, I don't like that kind of maybe has the wrong connotations. Were being conservative and taking their pitchers out so as not to get them exposed. For a couple of years, he was leaving Rodriguez in. You're going 6.
Yeah, take his lumps.
Right, exactly. And it started to work. He started to be able to go into the 6th inning, and he started to grow as a pitcher through 203 innings, 2019, the last one with Cora. We'll see. Maybe not at the beginning. I don't think he'll. I think this reason now to back off. But you know how things are. You kind of forget these things. May or June, it's all systems go. It's back to normal. It's get the whip back out. So we'll see. Now, he's had knee injuries, but he had the surgeries. One of the things we didn't learn last year was, is the knee still a problem, or is he still susceptible to other things? So that's still, in the back of our minds. But, he's just entering his age 27 season. We should be able to get I don't see 200 innings this year, but, I think he'll be a 200 inning guy starting next year. And he reminds me a little bit of Jose Barrios, where what you have is not bad, but there's another. I can't say that's the other level. This is why, but I do see another level, and he's not at the same level as Barrios. But the same idea in my head that he could get better. Yeah. I don't know how, but he could.
Yeah, it's easy to dream on maybe there being that next level with him still. And he was developing into one of the top lefties starters in the AL before he went down. And, because he didn't pitch, it's hard to know how many innings you're getting. But at the same time, while he didn't pitch, his arm should be pretty fresh. You got to love that. And, he's created some separation from those knee issues. It sounds like they're not gonna keep the training wheels on for too long. So, I'm pretty excited about him.
Look at these. I actually see a lot of Barrios in the numbers with a better strikeout rate. If they both can get better control without losing anything else, that's the next level. Mm-hmm. And Barrios' walk rate's right around 3. I know we like to talk percents. It's better, but people, 3 per 9 and 3.9 are more relatable. But Rodriguez is up around the 3.3 range. If he can drop that down to 3.2, 3.0, and Barrios goes 2.7, 2.8, that's the next level right there. Mm-hmm. When you're not walking people, you're not working out of the stretch as much, and it just is sort of a domino effect.
I know being a lefty in that division is pretty brutal. John Means has kind of made it work, but you're facing the Blue Jays now with Springer. You're facing the Yankees. You're facing the Reyes, who platoon like crazy. And I get that they're probably a lot of weeks where you don't feel great about starting a guy like Erod. You feel a little scared about it. But I do think he's going to be a nice pick. And yeah, it's just been so long since we've seen him that I think we've forgotten how good this guy actually was. A real quick note before we move on, Todd, from our sponsor, AutoNew. AutoNew Fantasy Baseball is the next level fantasy baseball challenge you've been looking for. Experience a year-round dynasty competition with deep rosters. Accumulate prospects to lead your team in the future or move for a superstar at the trade deadline. Keep your baseball mind engaged in the offseason with trades and arbitration. Learn about why everyone who plays AutoNew becomes addicted at autonewbaseball.com. That's OTTONEU baseball.com. AutoNew, better fantasy baseball. Todd, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you're kind of like my go-to guy when it comes to park factors. Dunedin, Florida, TD Ballpark. Of course, we now know that is indeed where the Blue Jays will be opening their home games. Can you tell us anything? Do you have any idea how things are going to play there in Dunedin?
Yeah, no, we should. I mean, you said it right, open, because there's a good chance that Toronto goes to Buffalo in May or June when it starts to get a little bit warmer, and who knows what will be at that point, whether they'll be able to go back to the Rogers Center. There was a recent renovation in Dunedin that had the dimensions pretty much match Rogers Center to a T. Rogers Center, now I don't know about the height of the fences. I've been able to kind of confirm from, reports and someone who lives near Dunedin that the renovations took place and that, they went into effect last year, and the dimensions are, if not the same, very, very close to Rogers Center. The heat will make the ball travel further. Obviously, Rogers Center is in a dome, so it's Toronto's cold. Well, it's 72. And whether the air conditioning's blowing in or out, I don't know for sure. But Rogers Center helped homers, but it was about even for runs. So I'm expecting Dunedin to do something similar. I think it'll be very good for home runs. We don't know how it'll play for runs. The assumption is it's also good for runs, but the semi-small dimensions, fly balls get caught more often. I don't know. I think at this point, it used to be that minor league infields weren't as good, right? The bad hops and errors and such. I think at this point, I don't think that that's as much of an issue. That especially since there were renovations, that it's probably as good of an infield as there would be in a, maybe not as good in the major leagues, but it's fine. Keeping in mind too that Toronto was artificial turf. I don't think. I wonder how that will sway things. I think that's probably better. Well, do they?
It's a grass.
Toronto doesn't really have
a grass surface.
Yeah, do they? Toronto doesn't seem to have any more the guy that you're really worried about, right? Grichuk and Hernandez. These guys are all fairly young. Gurriel. So I'm not as concerned. There were some outfielders, Brantley, who isn't with Toronto, but the guy that you like to be on grass.
I thought he was going there for a second.
Right. Well, he was there for a day, right? Anyway, so I'm probably, because we don't know when they're switching parks, and Toronto is kind of leaning towards offensive anyway. I don't know that I'm going to make a switch or even favor Toronto batters that much more because of the park. I don't know that I buy that it's going to be a launching pad. We thought Buffalo would be a launching pad, and it appeared to be for a game or two, but then it calmed down. And because the way our mind works, what happens first sticks in our head, people think it was a launching pad, but it calmed down quite a bit. So I don't know that I'm going to change. Maybe it's a tiebreaker because I don't think it's going to be bad. Right. So if you're looking at Vlad and you're looking at another, I shouldn't use Vlad an example because you're taking Vlad. But if you're looking at a Blue Jay and a non-Blue Jay, I may use that as a tiebreaker. I'm not going to knock Hyunjin Ryu down because he's proven he can pitch anywhere. But some of the back end guys may be a little bit less enthusiastic. You mentioned the division about streaming the Blue Jays. That's the thing. Their pitching can go both ways after Ryu. They've got some quality arms, but they've got some potential arms in that staff. Let's see how it, Nate Pearson, Robbie Ray, Matz. I don't know that I wasn't really on them to begin with, so it's hard to say. But I'm not completely worried. It's in the morning. I'm rambling, man. I'm sorry.
No, this is great.
Not as
It's always
sharp as
good talking with you.
not as sharp as I am during the afternoon, where I get to the point and move on.
No, you're the man, Todd. And I was, while you're talking, I looked up the dimensions. Looks like 333 feet to left field, left center 380. So that seems pretty favorable for righty power, especially center field 400 feet, right center 363, right field 336. Grass surface. So yeah, I mean it'll be weird to see. And yeah, maybe they move back to Buffalo. Maybe they're even able to play in Canada. Who knows? But
out of our hands.
Yeah, out of our hands.
As are most things. Yeah,
it's going to be kind of weird to see though, playing there, but it'll be cool. Yeah, but this pitching staff, I'm with you. Like, I just haven't really been thinking about these guys much beyond Ryu, and I kind of like this team. Kirby Yates on the relief side, but starting pitching outside of Ryu, I don't see myself rostering a single one of these guys. Pearson's risky. Robbie Ray, I don't see why anybody wants to draft him. I just don't see anybody
counts strikeouts.
I don't see anybody here that I would want to draft.
No,
it's bad.
Tanner Roark is kind of that 37th round DC draft and hold pick just because, well, he's going to start, right? And you hope you never have to use him. Stripling hasn't reported, but I don't think that's my Ross Stripling bandwagon driving days have come to a halt.
I used to kind of like him too, and it just didn't work out. And this is just a tough division to pitch in, tough place to pitch.
Yeah,
and I don't really see anything to like here. I wonder how this team's going to do this year. They're one of the teams who's like, Vegas futures. I want to check out because
they're going to win a lot of 8-6 games, aren't they?
It feels like it. The deadened ball, like maybe that helps some of these arms, but I know James likes Thomas Hatch a little bit further down. He's still technically a prospect, but on that pitching side, I don't see much. Thanks for your insight, though. I not really changing any of my thoughts on Blue Jays, but it's good to know how Dunedin is looking as far as how it'll play. Todd, yesterday I got a question about Michael Conforto because I drafted him, and I just wanted to talk to you a little about him because he seems like he's a player we haven't discussed much this draft season. And I was a pretty big believer heading into last year. It looked good in retrospect because small sample, he went off. And that was great to see. Michael Conforto goes crazy. Kind of a tough place to hit in. And I want to give this guy credit. Ben Palmer from Pitcher List had a really interesting tweet the other day. And it was citing the bad X, but he was noting how Conforto's projection not all that much different from a guy like Cole Calhoun, who you can get almost 200 picks later. So is Conforto maybe a guy who's overdrafted now out on the heels of such a strong season, and maybe what he does isn't all that unique, or is he a target of yours?
I'm not going to call him a target, but I think it just goes a little bit to do with understanding projections in fantasy and how they relate in playing time. We talked about this a little off air, so I jotted down the relative projections, and they're Conforto slash line according to Derek Carty's the bad X. Conforto has him by 8 points in the batting average, 18 points in on base, and 10 points in slug. But where I think he also has Calhoun is in playing time, and he has him in a better lineup. So are there 200 rounds difference? I don't know. I mean, if the implication is they're the same player,
200 pick difference.
Yeah, I don't think Ben was trying to say they're the same player.
No.
I just think he was noting the similarities, at least in the slash line, and then that's good to know. And Derek does a great job with regression. We talked about the parks. I think Conforto is obviously penalized by hitting in Citi Field, according to the bad X, and some hard regression. I think I probably have Conforto a little more. I project him a little more aggressively than Derek does, and I may back off Calhoun just a little bit. The difference in age, so I don't. I'm sure Derek has an age factor baked in, but everybody does it slightly differently. But I think it's a good observation. I think it says more. I think it's more about Calhoun than it is about Conforto.
Yeah,
I think Calhoun may be drafted a little bit too low. And people are laughing because I'm a Cole Calhoun guy, or at least I was. But I think it reflects more on Calhoun than it does Conforto. But on the other hand, that's also now when you're drafting Calhoun, people may not, they want to take upside. They want to take Julio Rodriguez and then draft someone like Cole Calhoun a few rounds later as a hedge. So a lot of that also has to do with strategy. And plus, we're talking the NFBC here. That's the ADP that's out now, and it's fine. But it's its own economy. It's its own way of doing things. And in a draft championship league, I like the platoon bats because you can pop him into your lineup during the half weeks. And he's not a platoon bat because he plays really good defense. But his playing time is a little bit less. So when you put it all in context, here again, rambling again. I like the question. I like the observation. This is kind of what Ron Chandler does with Babs, right? Finds similar players with similar skill sets, very far apart. One of the arguments could be if you want this type of player, don't take Conforto, take someone else at that spot and get Calhoun later, and you have that outfield spot filled. But I like the question, but I'm kind of with you I'm taking Conforto higher, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it is kind of eye-opening and just a good point, certainly. And I've been on Conforto, but yeah, it's a good point that maybe you could get a similar player, and he's not all that unique, perhaps. I just wanted to note, by the way, just to lay the numbers out. Bad X projection for Conforto, 254, 355, 461 with 29 homers. And Calhoun, 247, 338, 456 with 27 homers. And ADP for Calhoun, 250 compared to ADP 73. Conforto, though, steady growth. You'd love to see that. He's still only 27 years old, and I just believe in his growth against lefties and his ability to make contact on pitches out of the zone, his improvement against off-speed stuff. I just think he's a good player, but maybe I need to, it's about draft strategy and about team build and roster construction, and maybe Conforto at that spot. I think it took him in the 6th round. Maybe that's not the ideal to build a roster. I'll have to revisit that. I got him in the 5th round.
Jeff Erickson, some projections for the site, has Conforto 288, 382, and 500. So he's buying into the growth. Now that's better than his 2 seasons previous to last year, where Conforto just went, through the roof. He was one of the guys that just had a great year, and we really would have liked to have seen what happened during the rest of the year. But Jeff's projection isn't horribly far off from 2017 when he went 279, 384, 555 with a 939 OPS. Jeff has him for an 882 OPS. So he's done it before, and it's also kind of knowing the different systems, and not that there's anything right or wrong with any projection system, but you have an idea of how it's generated, then you have an idea how to frame the projection.
Sure, yeah. This is what makes this so fun. There's big discrepancy between Jeff's projection and the Bad X's batting average projection for Conforto. And, I love fantasy because it's not just about player evaluation. I could like Conforto all I want, but maybe it's not the right way to build a team. Those first 5 picks are so valuable, and there are positions and stats that are scarce, and you may want to go elsewhere. I was happy to get him, then got Gleyber Torres in the 6th. Then J.D. Martinez. I think I know your stance on J.D., Todd, but I look at him, and getting him outside the top 100 feels like stealing, honestly. And I thought when I took him, I was like, I have to set the max pick here, but it wasn't even close to the max pick. His max pick, I think it's like 150, something crazy like that. I am not ready to give up on JD after the short season. He's going to have iPads, I guess, in the dugout to look at. He's not going to be able to go back into the video room and do whatever he did back there. But this guy just had too many good years. I think it was like 7 really good years. and I'm not willing to write him off. So he's still a top target for me. Do you feel the same way, or do you kind of get why people are a little hesitant?
Well, I get why they're a little hesitant in that he was kind of on a small decline in 2019, so we don't know if that was just happenstance or the beginning of the end. I don't think it was the beginning of the end. I'm on him as well, and he should get outfield eligibility. I mean, it locks you up during your draft or auction, UT only. We should probably point out that people are just now kind of getting into the swing of things. Has been kind of a I don't say dispute, but for those with 7-game leagues, Martinez played 4 in either left or right and 3 in the other, but he played left and right in the same game.
Yeah.
So he appeared in the outfield 6 times.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's
he
tricky.
should have DH only for those in 7-game leagues, but some of the sites sum them up and don't, so it appears to be 7. You were talking about Conforto. Somebody took him early in the labor draft. It's kind of like their first hitter after taking pitchers. So it's opinions are opinions. Okay, so it was Zach Steinhorn took him in the 4th round. So it wasn't so much taking early because pitchers. He just 4th round. Now Zach is a Yankees fan, so I'm not going to call it New York fanhood, but it's interesting. And Zach represent creative sports, which so I'm go Zach.
Nice.
But he's won the league. Well, no, has he won labor? I know he's won tout. So, but anyway,
I respect, by the way, what you're doing over there at Creative Sports, giving some young writers a chance. I love that.
No, I think they're not all young, but
well, I mean, up and coming, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's good. We're gonna starting Monday. We're gonna have a whole new slew of pieces on the site, assuming I remember to post them.
That's
or
great.
Remember how. No, I will. But so that's all good. So yeah, that's an interesting discussion there. But my Excel is really, really slow because I've got so many programs tied together with the no DH and the DH. So I'm not gonna dare mess things up and open mine up now to find out where I have them. But
I was just laughing because I was scrolling through our news feed, and the note right after Tatis is 14 years, $340 million. Tim Tebow announces retirement.
There we go.
Got to get that in on the. But one guy I saw Jeff taking that labor draft that you alluded to was Davy Garcia. He's kind of small, but he does have pretty intriguing skills. By the way, you can listen to that labor broadcast on SiriusXM radio. I enjoyed that. The Iceman, Steve Gardner, Colton and the Wolfman, and Jim Bowden did a good job. Jeff, of course, repping RotoWire and that. Davy Garcia, not a bad late-round dart as far as I'm concerned. He's
I love it.
Competing for the 5th starter role. You do love it?
I forget if it was I don't think it was for our site. It was either ESPN or my own site that I recently profiled Garcia, and I like what I saw. And the sleight of build was a concern, but is it? I mean, you get Pedro. Every small pitcher is compared to Pedro Martinez, right?
That's true.
Especially when they're Latin. Roy Oswalt. There are examples of pitchers that it just has to be with how free and loose their motion is and how much torque they're putting on. But I saw a lot. I liked a lot what I saw about Garcia. One of them being that he's not as susceptible to homers, which is sort of the only concern I have with Yankee Stadium because it does suppress runs if you can keep the ball in the yard. So, and it may be that he has a developing third pitch. I don't recall exactly. But I'm definitely with you. Garcia, I moved him onto my definitely take a dart and as a starting pitcher list, whereas he probably wasn't. Well, he wasn't there before.
Yeah, he was not really on my redraft mixed league radar at all. But I'll have to circle back because, of course, I respect Jeff and what you have said.
Right.
Opened my eyes as well. Another guy I took in this draft, I wasn't really on him, but it got to the point where I didn't have a second baseman. I didn't have a third baseman. This guy qualified at both. I dug into the projections. Projections still pretty favorable on Gene Segura, so I took him in the 12th round. I just liked having the ability to, second or third. So I took him, ahead of some pretty good players. I ended up getting like Kyle Schwarber next round, Jared Kelenic. So I actually got some of the guys that I was also considering with that pick. And I guess in my head, I kind of have like Segura isn't exciting. He's not that, not that great of an option. But that dual eligibility helps, and he's not a bad player. It's just, I guess he's just not exciting for a redraft team, and I've kind of had that mental hurdle. But Gene Segura is still pretty darn good at 30.
He's been one of my favorites
31.
over the years. Yeah, he's been one of my favorites over the years just because, just the reasons you're mentioning. He's boring and he falls, and that's the kind of player I like. There was a few years where he was 5th, 6th, 7th round when he was stealing bases, and Marcus Semien was 12th and 13th, and then they kind of flip-flopped the year that Semien went nuts and Segura fell a bit, and they've now settled around close to each other. But I don't know if Segura will run, but he'll score. The on-base isn't terrible. No, I like him a lot for just the reasons that you mentioned. So last year he was down to 2 steals, but it was in partial of a season. But his steals have been trending downward, 33, 22, 2010, and last year 2. So we prorated to 5 or 6. So they are trending downward. His on base is stable. Everything's stable, really.
Yeah.
Other than he had a bit of a down 19, which was weird because that's when the ball was flying, and you'd expect his profile to actually increase with that ball flying because he's in that range. But for whatever reason, he picked the wrong year to have a down year. All right, tiny concern that his K percent jumped last year.
Yeah, it did. But nearly doubled almost. Small
number of games. His walk rate doubled as well. Whether they got in his head, changing approach, I don't know. But no, I like the pick a lot.
Oh, that's good to hear. I'm glad to get your blessing on it because I wasn't sure, and I bumped him up my rankings. This is really what this draft is to do, is to battle test my personal cheat sheet on the site. Of course, separate from Jeff's official site rankings, just another opinion on the player pool. But so, yeah, I had to bump him up. I had him, 180s, 190s, and I was like, if I'm going to jump Segura, I got to bump him up. So I did give him a pretty sizable jump up the list. I also bumped up Carson Kelly after I drafted him just a little bit. Just a guy who I think they like behind the plate and not bad. I was also, Buster Posey was like the other catcher hanging around. I just see a little bit more upside with Carson Kelly. Just 2 other picks I wanted to ask you about in this draft, Todd. Anthony Bass in Miami. Do you think he's the closer there? I think probably, but I actually kind of like Yimi Garcia's skills a little more. Yeah,
I tweeted last night, and I kind of was reviewing the Miami rotation, and it's like, this is nice. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch these guys, and I hope they get to keep them. And it's not an Ozuna, Stanton, Yelich situation where they break it up in 3 years.
Imagine if they still had Zach Gallen. That might be the best rotation. It might be on par with the Dodgers almost.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about the Jose Fernandez. Well, I guess I just did. But anyway, my point was I understand why the Marlins didn't go out and get a closer. They have like 18 guys in their bullpen. Someone will emerge. But it would be nice if they had a solid guy to protect the wins from this young and up-and-coming staff to keep their confidence, et cetera. And, of course, so someone responded that Craig Mish says it's going to be Anthony Bass. And, we know Craig. We know Craig pretty well from playing with Mint Outlaws and just in general. And I agree 100%. I'm not arguing that Anthony Bass is going to get the first shot. My point was I use the word reliable. I just don't put reliable next to his name. Mm-hmm. His K-minus BB percent is mediocre at best. So, yes, he'll get the first shot. My point was I wish that there was somebody better. Maybe Garcia emerges. They just picked up John Curtis from Tampa. There's several arms that could potentially emerge. I don't want someone to emerge. I want someone there now, right? I don't want to cycle through 4 guys before we land on the guy and blow 7 wins along the way. That's my only point was I really like that staff. It's going to be fun. I can see myself turning on some Marlins games just because I want to see Pablo Lopez or I want to see Hernandez or Alcantara. Not even to mention Sixto. But did you see the overlay that Alex Fast put together for Sixto Sanchez during the pitcher con? That was just Rob Silver called it pitcher porn or whatever he called it. So
it definitely is. I love Alex Fast and congrats to him. He's going to be doing that for the Sunday night baseball broadcast, I guess, doing overlays in game. That's amazing. He's a super talented guy. He was with us on our XM show.
You got the bump.
MLB
You got our
network.
bump, right?
Yeah. We gave him the rub, as they say in the wrestling biz. Todd, the other guy I was going to ask you about hasn't been picked, actually. I said that there were 2 picks I wanted to ask you about. He hasn't been picked, and now I'm starting to flip-flop between him and Erod because guys like Stephon Crichton, Joakim Soria, Anthony Bass, who else went? Greg Holland. Now I'm thinking maybe I need to jump Jake McGee. They've been talking, and they've said, look, this guy's a closing option for the team. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to be the closer.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Well, I guess it depends what you prefer in this particular draft. I mean, I'd probably, Erod and McGee, I think it's a matter of needs at this point. I think that I think if both of them do what they're supposed to do, you prefer Erod because you can probably still get another closer. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I could sneak McGee Bass in a round or 2 or 3.
I mean, I'm not going to, will he get many saves? I mean, I'm still smarting from Trevor Gott killing my tout chances last year. So San Francisco will generate chances. He will get, and Jason Collette has followed McGee's career and talks about his new approach, some new pitching. So you expect there to be a little improvement. And we all know how well San Francisco helps pitching. Just look at Kevin Gausman. And although we don't know, you're talking park factors, we don't know if the not so much portholes, but the viewing holes in right field that were covered up by tarp last year, so people couldn't watch games from the street. Not that they were allowed outside anyway, but those were covered up, and it changed the wind currents, and the parks seemed to play a little more hitter friendly. We don't know how that's going to affect things, but even so, I'm much more apt to roll the dice on Soria. You said he's taken Melanson. Than I am McGee. I don't know. It's not even they have other options, right? It's like Tony Watson. I mean, I don't even know if they have Watson still.
Reyes Maranta, but I don't know if he's healthy. Yeah. Actually, I already took Melanson several rounds ago 2 rounds ago on the 15th, so he's off the board. I do like Melanson too. I think he's pretty clearly going to be the number 1 in San Diego. Maybe they mix and match a little bit with Drew Pomeranz, but I actually think a guy like Melanson, he's got that long track record. He's kind of a guy that you actually want to box into the 9th and just get those ground balls, and then you're flexible with other people, but you just kind of mark the 9th inning off and say that's Mark Melanson's. I'll probably go with Erod since I do have Rosenthal and Melanson, but I do kind of like McGee as a sleeper pick. But yeah, it's not necessarily a sure thing. As a lefty, 34 years old, but he is coming off a brilliant season, Jake McGee. Hopefully I'll be able to get both of those guys. Todd, anything else on your mind today? Appreciate you, your patience earlier this morning as I battled through a little tech issue.
Well, I'm not going to say we're even for keeping you on hold a couple weeks back, but I would say we're getting ready for things. This DH thing's just driving me crazy, guys. Come
crazy.
On. Let us know.
I know you spent most of the last week since we last talked doing a separate set of projections, right?
And that's and that's, I'm sure there are Excel gurus out there who know better than I am. I've got so many programs linked. When I go to make a change on one, it just freezes, and I'm Googling, and I think I understand why, and I know what I need to change, but now I just need to change it, and everything's on the cloud. So hopefully it doesn't get corrupted and I don't lose it, because that would be bad. Oof. But I'm going to make a backup of everything right now, and we'll go from there. So, no, we're looking forward to the just like I said, started to do some drafts. Labor started. We got one other couple weeks before the AL and NL labor, the first pitch. Are you doing anything with the so far with the first pitch online?
James and I are doing a little thing together. Still waiting details, but kind of like both of us taking different sides on a player type of deal.
Nice.
Debating.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll be doing a tough projections panel. So we're
awesome.
And I think I'm also going to be monitoring a retro draft. So the retro drafts that we've been doing over the summer and into the off season, they want to have some of the attendees do one. So they've asked if I could babysit that, as it were. So yeah, we'll be busy, and we're looking forward to that. And after that, we're getting close to Tout Wars, and NFBC and the season starts. Unless this whole April 1st thing's just a joke.
It may be. That's very possible. And yeah, Todd, really appreciate everything. And I will, I'm looking forward to hearing about that tough projections panel, because I really enjoyed the article you and Jeff wrote about the challenges in projecting for 2021 for our magazine. You can, of course, get yours at rotowire.com/magazine. And if you're in a hurry, you got a draft coming up, hit up our support inbox, and we can send you a PDF so you don't have to wait for it to come in the mail. Todd, thanks so much, and thank you all for joining us on the show. We'll be back next Friday on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.